Welcome back. In this video we're going to build a fully playable MetaHuman character and an NPC, fix retargeting issues, set up ElevenLabs, generate voice acting automatically, and create facial animations with MetaHuman Performance. By the end of this video, you'll be able to transform plain text into a full cinematic dialogue sequence in just a few minutes. Let's get started. First, we need to enable the required MetaHuman plugins. Go to Edit Plugins. Search for MetaHuman. You'll notice that MetaHuman SDK is already enabled by default. Now enable the following plugins: MetaHuman Animator, MetaHuman Core Tech, MetaHuman Creator, and MetaHuman Live Link. Once all these plugins are enabled, restart the Unreal Engine editor. Once the editor has restarted, we can create a MetaHuman for our player character. To do this, we will use MetaHuman Creator, which is available directly inside Unreal Engine starting from version 5.6. To keep the project organized, I'll create a new folder, and inside it I will create a MetaHuman character asset. To create one, right-click in the content browser and select MetaHuman Character. Open the MetaHuman character asset. The editor will notify you that some project settings are missing. Click Enable Missing. Unreal Engine will then prompt you to restart in order to apply these settings. Restart the editor once again. Once Unreal Engine has restarted, open the MetaHuman character asset again. Inside this editor, you can customize your character however you like. I'll speed up the video during this part. Since the customization process can take some time, feel free to pause the video here. We'll meet again in a moment to look at the important options required for assembling our character. See you in a bit. Once you're ready to assemble your character, go to the Assembly tab. To complete the assembly, 2 steps are required. First, click Download Texture Sources. Again, this process may take some time. And then click Create Full Rig. Once both operations are complete, your character is ready to be assembled. Switch to a different tab, then return to Assembly to access the assembly settings. We're going to use the optimized version of the MetaHuman, and we'll keep a good level of visual fidelity by selecting the high quality setting. Finally, click Assemble and wait for the character to finish processing. This step can take quite a while, so I'll see you right after it's done. See you in a moment. Once the character has been assembled, save all the files that were generated. You should now see a MetaHumans folder, and inside it a folder containing your character. Place the character in the level to verify that the generation process went smoothly. Since MetaHuman Creator is still in beta, errors may occur during generation, and you may end up with a broken character, hair behaving incorrectly, distorted body parts, and so on. Something looks wrong, try regenerating your character. If the issue persists, try switching to a different quality level. If everything looks correct, we can continue. We will now create a copy of our character's blueprint to turn it into a player-controlled character. Open the new blueprint. By default, generated MetaHumans are child classes of actor, but for this example we will use BP_third-person character as the parent class. Of course, you should adapt this step to fit your own project. Here are the main steps to follow. First, go to Class Settings and change the parent class of the MetaHuman. Choose the character class used in your project. In my case, I'll select BP_third-person character. This brings in all the predefined components and behavior from the parent class. In the viewport, you'll notice that we need to make a few adjustments to ensure the MetaHuman behaves correctly. Start by repositioning the root component of the MetaHuman inside the mesh component. Then reset the location and rotation of the root component. Already this looks much better. Next, we need to hide the mesh from the parent class. Select the mesh component, search for Visible and uncheck it. Now we'll need an animation blueprint for our MetaHuman. I'll use the one provided in the third-person template. We're going to retarget ABP_unarmed for our MetaHuman. Locate the animation blueprint, right-click it, and choose Retarget Animations. For the target skeletal mesh, select the MetaHuman body we created. Then, select ABP_unarmed and click Export Animations. To keep the project organized, I'll create a dedicated folder for the retarget animations, and I'll add the prefix mh_ so they're easy to identify. Click on Export and in the options window that appears, keep the default settings and click Export. Once the animations have been retargeted, go back to the blueprint we were editing and select the body component. For the Anim class parameter, assign the animation blueprint we just retargeted. Your character's body is now animated. Next, select the face component. You'll notice that it also requires an animation blueprint. Without one that contains a default slot, facial animations which rely on anim montages will not play correctly. So we need to create a dedicated animation blueprint for the character's head. To do this, we must first identify which skeleton is used by our character, because this information is required when creating the new animation blueprint. In our duplicated asset, the skeleton field appears empty, even though it isn't. So let's find this information inside the base MetaHuman asset. Select the face component, open the skeletal mesh asset, and hover your cursor over the skeleton button. This reveals the full path to the skeleton asset. What matters here is that the skeleton comes from the MetaHumans common face folder. Now we can create our animation blueprint for the head. Right-click in the content browser and choose Animation Blueprint. In the window that appears, select the correct face archetype skeleton. Remember, we need the one located under MetaHumans common face. Open your new animation blueprint. Here we simply need to add a default slot node and connect it directly to the output pose node. This default slot allows the system to play anim montages on the character's head, and it is essential for proper functionality. Once your animation blueprint is ready, return to your character blueprint and assign this head animation blueprint to the face component. Next, select the body component and add a tag named body. Then select the face component and add a tag named head. These tags enable Dialog and Quest Master to correctly locate the components used for body animations and facial animations. Now let's verify the tag defined in the speaker asset, so we can apply it to our MetaHuman. Open the speaker asset and copy the value from the actor unique identifier field. Go back to the character blueprint, select the character's root, and ensure the tag matches exactly. As a reminder, this tag must match perfectly for Dialog and Quest Master to correctly identify the character in the level. In the previous video, we already completed the required setup on the parent class, including the implementation of the necessary interfaces. If you are not using the same parent class, make sure to implement those interfaces yourself. Since I inherited from the class we prepared earlier, there is nothing additional for me to configure here. Now, we need to update our game mode so it uses the character we just created as the player's pawn. Locate your GameMode class, open it, and in the default pawn class field, select the MetaHuman character we created. Let's test everything. We can see that our MetaHuman is now fully controllable. However, as soon as we start moving, there is a small issue with the character's feet. This is actually an inverse kinematics issue caused by the retargeting process. To fix it, we'll adjust the control rig responsible for the foot IK. Open the animation blueprint we previously retarget. Go to the Anim graph and locate the control rig node. Double-click it to open the corresponding control rig asset. There is already quite a bit of work done inside this asset. To fix our issue, we're going to add a step at the beginning of the sequence. You may also notice that the current sequence node is outdated, so we will replace it with a new one. Create 5 pins on the new sequence node, and reconnect the existing blocks of logic. Make sure to leave the first pin of the sequence unused. Now at the very beginning, before step 1, we will add logic to reposition the IK foot R and IK foot L bones based on their corresponding foot R and foot L bones. Once this small adjustment is done, return to the level to test. Our foot issue should now be resolved. Run the dialog to ensure everything works properly. A quick note, I had performed a few tests before recording the tutorial, so the dialogue being played here is not the same one we created earlier. It's not a big deal, but some of you may have noticed it. You can also see that the MetaHuman I created is taller than the default mannequin. To correct the camera placement, open the speaker asset and adjust the camera additive offset. Test again and fine-tune the values until the camera framing looks correct. That's much better. Now we're going to create a MetaHuman to replace the default mannequin used as our NPC. Repeat the same steps we followed earlier when creating the player's MetaHuman. Create a new MetaHuman character asset and assemble the character just as we did at the beginning of the video. As before, verify that everything looks correct. Duplicate the character and open the new blueprint. Here we're going to create a base class that we can reuse later if we add more NPC MetaHumans to the project. I duplicated the asset to start from it, but in the end we'll remove everything specific to this MetaHuman. The goal of this class is to define a reusable foundation that makes adding new MetaHumans much easier. First, go to Class Settings and change the parent class to Character. The next steps you'll see on screen are optional. What matters starts now. Create a function named Setup Anim Instances and Tags. This function will be responsible for configuring the animation blueprints of the skeletal mesh components it receives as parameters. It will also apply the body and head tags to these components so that later all we need to do is call this function with the correct references, no more manual tagging. This function takes two parameters, body and head, both of type skeletal mesh component. Implement the function as shown. The blueprint of this function is available in the video description if you want to copy it. First, we add the body and head tags to each component. Then we assign the correct animation blueprint classes to each component. You can promote these animation blueprint references to variables to make the class configurable. Set these variables to instance editable for better flexibility. As default values, assign the animation blueprints we previously created for our MetaHumans. Next, remove everything in this blueprint that is specific to the MetaHuman, since we're turning this into a clean, reusable base class. In the end, only the function we created, its variables, and the native character components should remain. Rename the class and move it into your project's blueprints folder, instead of keeping it inside the MetaHumans folder. Once that's done, duplicate the NPC MetaHuman again and open it. Go to Class Settings and this time choose the base class we just created. Just like we did for the player character, reposition the root component under the mesh component. This time, lower the mesh component on the Z-axis by half the height of the capsule component, so the character properly stands on the ground. Rotate it by -90 degrees on the Z-axis so the character faces the correct direction. In the construction script, add a call to our Setup Anim Instances and Tags function. Pass in the body component and the face component as parameters. We still need to implement the dialogue actor interface so that dialogue and quest master can position the camera correctly. We could implement it directly on each NPC blueprint, but to avoid repeating this for every NPC, we'll implement it in the base class. This way, every future NPC will automatically inherit it. Return to the base class. Go to Class Settings, add Dialogue Actor Interface to the implemented interfaces. Just like in the previous video, implement Get Dialogue Actor Ground Root Transform. Add an arrow component, position it correctly, and return its relative transform in the function. Our NPC is almost ready. Now we can replace the mannequin in the level with our new MetaHuman NPC. Add the NPC's tag so that Dialogue and Quest Master can correctly find this actor when the dialogue is triggered. The last step is to assign the dialogue to play. Go back to the base class and add a dialogue actor component. Return to the level, select the NPC, then select the dialogue actor component and choose the dialogue to play. Since I created another dialogue earlier, I'm checking whether the NPC tag matches the tag defined in the dialogue asset. For some reason, the actor unique identifier field is empty here, so I'm adding a new one and updating my NPC accordingly. Let's test everything. Everything looks correct. Now that our MetaHumans are ready, we can finally make them speak. To do that, we're going to generate their voices using ElevenLabs. Go to Edit Project Settings, then locate the Dialogue Master, Dialogue Editor section. You'll find several editor-related settings here, but what we need right now is the Text-to-Speech Options section. We will need an API key for ElevenLabs. To generate one, go to the ElevenLabs website. If you don't already have an account, create one. Next, go to the Developer section and open the API Keys tab. Click Create Key. A window will appear allowing you to define permissions for this API key. I recommend enabling restrictions. You can also optionally set a monthly credit limit. Assign the following permissions to your API key. Set text-to-speech to access. Set voices to read. Set models to read. Then click Create Key. Your API key is now generated. Click Copy to Clipboard. Note that you will not be able to view this key again later, so make sure you store it somewhere safe. If you lose it, simply delete it and create a new one. Never share this key with anyone. In my case, I haven't blurred mine because I will delete it after publishing this video. Return to the Dialogue and Quest Master settings and paste your API key into the appropriate field. Finally, restart the editor so that all ElevenLabs related features are properly enabled in Dialogue and Quest Master. Now we can finally take full advantage of Dialogue and Quest Master. Open the dialogue we created earlier. You should now see the Generate Voices for Selected Nodes option in the Dialogue Editor's context menu. Next, we're going to select a voice for each character. Open the Player Speaker asset and expand the ElevenLabs Parameters section. Here, you can browse voices and preview them directly inside Unreal Engine.
God has given you one face, and you make yourself another.
Gratitude is riches, complaint is poverty.
Choose a voice you like for the player. You can also adjust the voice parameters to achieve the exact tone you want. Then go back to the dialogue asset and select a voice for the NPC as well.
If you spend your whole life waiting for the storm, you'll never enjoy the sunshine.
Once that's done, we can select all dialogue nodes using the quick selection tool built into the editor. Then simply choose Generate Voices for selected nodes, and Dialogue and Quest Master will automatically generate all the voice audio for our characters. Now that we have the audio files, we can generate facial animations using MetaHuman Performance. Select all the sound files, right-click, and choose MetaHuman Performance, Process and Export to Anim Sequences. Create a subfolder to keep things organized, then click Export. In the options window that appears, make sure that Target Skeleton or Skeletal Mesh is set to the face archetype skeleton used by our MetaHumans. Remember, this is the one located in MetaHuman's common face. Then click Create. Once the facial animation sequences are generated, right-click them and choose Create Anim Montage. Return to the dialogue editor, right-click, and select Associate Facial Anim Montages based on voice sound file name for selected nodes. And that's it. Your plain text has just been transformed into a fully cinematic dialogue sequence, in barely 2 minutes. Let's test it.
Okay.
And
first
unfortunately,
dialogue and quest master
disappointment.
test.
The
No
MetaHuman's
pressure,
head is
it's
completely
just me
detached from the body.
Talking to
It
myself
looks ridiculous.
in a dialogue system inside a tutorial.
But don't worry,
If this
we'll
shows up
cover
in
how to
game,
fix
great.
this and achieve
That
optimal
means
results in the
everything's
next
working.
video.
And if it doesn't,
For now, you can
well,
actually
then
work
I
around
guess
the
I'm
issue
just
by
monologuing
disabling
into the
Enable
void
Head
again.
Movement when generating
Conditions,
animations
action?
with
Yeah,
MetaHuman
we'll deal with all
Performance.
that later.
This
Baby
completely
steps.
removes
Let's
the
just
problem
get
and
this
is often
first
good
line to
enough if
appear
you're
without
using body
exploding
animations to drive the
Test
character
NPC
convincingly. Let's regenerate an animation with the Enable Head Movement option disabled, and check the result. Let's test it. As you can
Okay,
see, it
first
looks
dialogue and
significantly
quest
better
master
with
test.
Enable Head
No
Movement
pressure,
disabled.
it's just
This brings us to the end of the video. Thank you for watching. We've seen how to create and use MetaHumans with Dialogue and Quest Master, and how to convert written dialogue into a cinematic sequence in just a few minutes using ElevenLabs and MetaHuman Performance. In the next video, we'll look at how to keep natural head rotation without ending up with a detached head. And in the video after that, we'll explore using Live Link for facial mocap. See you soon.